Okay, so up to this point, we've talked about a number of the most important data transformation tools in the query editor. Next up, to round out the section, I want to cover some important settings and options. And the first topic is data source settings. So in the Home tab of the query editor, you'll see this option for data source settings. And that basically just allows you to view and manage all of the individual connections in your Power BI file. So in this example that we're looking at here, we've got connections to a number of individual CSV files, as well as a folder down there at the bottom of the list. Now, the critical concept to understand about data source settings is that when you make a connection to a local file, a file that's located on your computer, Power BI will basically take a snapshot of that exact file path to that exact file name. And what that means is that if anything changes about your file, if you rename it or if you move it to a new location, that path won't automatically update. So what you need to do is go into these data source settings, click Change Source, and browse to the revised version of that file. So this is probably the most common issue that I see in Power BI. People inadvertently rename a file or rearrange things on their desktop and accidentally break these file paths. But the good news is that it's a very easy fix as soon as you understand how these data source settings work. So let me show you what I mean. So I'm here in the AdventureWorks report. I've got my 4 tables at this point, including that AW sales table that's now linked to the folder that we created in the last video. And you can either follow along with me here, or you can just watch, because we're not actually going to be adding new data or revising anything that we have. I'm just going to show you a demo of what happens when a file path does break in the way that we talked about. So I'm going to edit queries to open up the editor. And as you can see, all 4 of my tables look good. And when I drill into the data source settings button right here in the Home tab, I can see these 4 connections in place, my 3 individual CSV files, calendar, customers, products, and then that folder that we just created. So everything looks good, everything's running smoothly. But now what if I accidentally changed one of those file names? So let me navigate to my actual source folder on my desktop. There we go. Here are my AdventureWorks CSV files that I'm pointing to. And as you can see from my query list, one of those files is the products file. So let's say I accidentally rename this file products2 or something similar. Now when I minimize this window and return back to the query editor, when I click the product lookup query and click this refresh preview tab, as you can see, I get this error that says we couldn't find the file. And if you read closely, you'll see why. It's because it's looking for the file with its original file name and location, AdventureWorks_products, not products2. So the issue goes all the way back to the very first step, which is the source. And again, it's because Power BI recorded or locked in the exact file path when I first created that connection. So I have 2 options to fix this here. Option 1 is simply to rename that file and remove the 2 that I added at the end. Option 2 is to drill into my data source settings, find the trouble spot, in this case the products line, click Change Source, and simply browse to the updated version, which lives right here, AdventureWorks Products 2. Press Open and OK. And now when I close this data source settings window, go back to product lookup and refresh once more, now we're back to usual. So the source populated properly, all of those applied steps are maintained, we didn't lose any information, and we're back right where we started. So pretty simple fix. We could leave things just like they are, or to kind of show you the same process in reverse, what I'm going to do is change that file name back to its original form. So I'll go to my desktop folder and then simply remove that 2 at the end of the file name, close that window, go into data source settings, products2, change the source, and again browse back to the original named AdventureWorks_products. Press OK, close out the settings window, and if I refresh, there we go. Everything looks good. So we haven't actually made any changes, but hopefully that was a helpful demo for how to address those data source errors using the data source settings options.